Who wants to go first? That doesn't matter to me.
Well, maybe just sort of your reaction. The budget's not going to be released, at least in full, before the election. What's your thoughts?
Well, for the fact of the matter is that in April, the decision should have been made to release the budget in the first place. We heard during the meeting today that there was a discussion and people thought it wasn't going to be important because there was an election. No one challenged that we needed to actually rush the budget in order to be able to ensure that the citizens had the information that they needed to be able to make an informed decision. And the fact of the matter is, we heard today that the council makes the decisions. Well, who decides the council? The citizens. And we need to make sure that the citizens have the information that they need in order to be able to make an informed decision. We also heard the city manager today say that we're looking at the levy in terms of the snow removal as well as ice, as well as a road maintenance levy. To my understanding, that's $60 million. So I think what's important is that we see some information. We've been able to make some progress, but quite frankly, the decision should have been made in April to have at least a preliminary budget before the election, as we did last year.
We will see a budget update, though. Is that not good enough?
It's a small step. What I heard was that we don't have time. And I guess what I'm trying to understand is the mayor himself has said, I'm the chair of $1 billion corporation. What I don't understand is what chair of $1 billion corporation doesn't know where their finances are sitting. And the fact of the matter is, as that chair of the $1 billion corporation, there should be regular budget updates. We shouldn't be waiting 6-8 months before we have the information. So it's a small concession, but it's not a win.
Can I ask you about MVA?
Absolutely.
And I know you held a presser this morning, and I do apologize, but we do want to ask you about that.
Yeah.
Do you think that a meeting with the Premier is top priority?
I think the Meewasin Valley is a crown jewel of the city of Saskatoon. It's when you ask anybody here in Saskatoon what they love, and they always say it's the river. And the fact of the matter is that we're seeing that value erode, that they've lost funding, and now they are having to rely on donations and so on to be able to keep it operational. They've had to close their interpretive center, and quite frankly, that's not good enough. The mayor and Charlie Clark, sit on that board. There's been more than enough time to address this situation. So absolutely, I do think that it needs to be a priority. We need to get an audience and have the discussion around the value. It provides economic value to our community. It provides a quality of life to our community. And we need to absolutely ensure that the decision makers, all of the partners are together and are pulling and working together, including the Premier.
And you say meeting with the Premier is a part of that process?
I really do. I think it's incredibly important that the Premier this is Saskatoon as the economic growth engine of Saskatoon or of Saskatchewan, and we simply know that this is part of an amenity that draws people here, and we also know it adds to our quality of life, and it's also about conservation. It's about watershed management. This city would not be here without the river. Quite frankly, we rely on it, and the Meewasin helps to ensure that we are looking after the river valley interests and the water here in our community, as well as the Watershed Management Authority. So quite frankly, absolutely, we need to raise the profile at that level and have that conversation.
I just have one question. I just want to ask you about something that Mr. Totland said. He said the city or administration has never released a budget in September before ever. So, and they can't legally have a meeting after September 21st because that's when nominations close. So are you suggesting that council should have pushed administration to try and have a budget released, something that they've never done before?
Well, what has happened before is they're trying to move towards more openness and transparency. So last year we saw information being released prior even to September. There was the updates that were being submitted. We didn't even see that this year, quite frankly. So I do think that the administration should have pushed harder. At the city council should have pushed the administration harder, in order to be able to ensure that there was information for the public. The fact of the matter is over expenditure, the tax increases, and the debt is a priority for the citizens. They're very concerned about it, and going into this year, that information should have been released. I think that that's something we should come to expect as citizens.
Back to the MVA for a minute. You also mentioned the makeup of the MVA board. It's too political. There's too many politicians on it. You used to be on the MVA board.
Yeah.
What is your experience there? Is that informing your opinion there?
Yeah, absolutely. I've actually done quite a bit of research on this as well, and studying some of the decisions that have happened at the Meewasin Valley Authority. And what my research showed was, quite frankly, it has become politicized. I was there as a technical expert in order to provide the information around growth and development and ensuring that we are continuing to sustain the river valley. And the challenge has been that we see that the politicization of the board is, in my view, not proving to be beneficial. We're still seeing a decrease of statutory funding. We often sometimes see, unfortunately, some rubber stamping of decisions. I don't think that there's enough scrutiny in order to preserve what we're trying to do with the conservation of the river valley.
As someone who's employed by the province, how comfortable are you during this campaign criticizing the province and criticizing the province funding of MPA and that sort of thing?
Yeah, I'm on leave from the province to run for this mayoral election, and for me, what's important is making sure that our city has the amenities, that the things that are important to the citizens are being preserved. And for me, this is about all of the partners at the MVA, and the fact it's how the legislation is written. And at the end of the day, each of the partners needs to ensure that it's preserving its contribution to the Meewasin and that it is for the future of our citizens. And furthermore, the fact is the funding has decreased. And to me, that's simply an indication that people clearly don't understand what the value is. And I think we need to raise the awareness. And that's why I think doing more than a letter, which is what has occurred, and actually having a meeting and talking about the economic value is something that's important.
Let me try that a different way. How comfortable are you, given that you might have to return to a job working for the province, to be in the position of criticizing the province during, possibly criticizing the province during election campaign?
Yeah, and I don't see myself criticizing the province. What I see myself doing is raising awareness of the fact that there's been systemically decreased funding. When you look at the inflation for the Meewasin, we haven't seen the investment. And the fact of the matter is it's causing an erosion of the services. This is an amenity that the children rely on, youth rely on, adults. It's the jewel of our city. So I think it's important to raise awareness. That's why I'm running to be mayor. Quite frankly, is I think we really need to challenge the status quo. I think we need change. I think we need a stronger leader. And I do think we need to expect more from our mayor. And these are all matters that the mayor should be speaking on, but he simply refuses to take a position. And I think that it's time to change that.